All right, welcome to The Explainer. So picture this, it's 1947. Two new nations, India and Pakistan, literally born at the same moment. But just like these train tracks you see here, they immediately started heading in completely different directions. Our job today? Figure out why that happened.
I mean, really, how does that happen? You start from the exact same place, at the exact same time, and yet your journeys are worlds apart. That's the big question we're going to try and unpack in this explainer. Okay, so here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start at the beginning, chapter 1. Then we'll look at the big political split, democracy versus military power. After that, we'll dive into something really fascinating, the space race. Then we'll touch on security and strategy. And finally, we'll put it all together to see the big picture. All right, let's dive into section 1, Two Nations, One Beginning. Those first few choices, the ones made right out of the gate in 1947, they were absolutely critical. They set the stage for everything that came after. Right from the very beginning, their fundamental ideas were just different. India went down the path of a secular, multi-religious democracy. Pakistan, on the other hand, was conceived as a homeland specifically for Muslims. And that single foundational choice, it had ripple effects on, well, pretty much everything. And you can see that difference in how they set up their rule books. India, boom, had its constitution in 1950. That locked in a stable, parliamentary democracy. Pakistan's path to a constitution, well, it was a lot bumpier. It was hit with a bunch of interruptions, and that created a kind of power vacuum. And as we know, nature and politics abhors a vacuum.
Okay, moving on to section 2. This one's a biggie. Democracy versus military power. This is really where you see one of the sharpest turns in the road. It all boils down to one question. Who's really in charge?
And wow, the contrast couldn't be clearer. In India, the principle was civilian supremacy. Simply put, the elected government calls the shots, period. But in Pakistan, something different emerged, what experts call institutional duality. It's like having two power centers, the civilian government and the military, and they weren't always on the same page, often vying for control.
So what does that unbroken chain of democracy actually look like on the ground in India? Well, it's built on some really solid pillars. You've got regular elections happening since the early 50s. You have an independent judiciary and election commission. You have a really vibrant media and civil society. And, crucially, peaceful transfers of power. It's not just a system, it became a culture. Democracy became the default.
Now, Pakistan's political story is a bit different. It's marked by this recurring cycle of interruptions. You can see right here the major military coups that essentially pressed pause on democracy. And even though there's been a return to elections since 2008, that long history of military involvement has left this constant tension right at the very heart of the country's politics. Okay, on to section 3, the race for space. There's nothing quite like a space program to show you what a country is really made of. Its ambition, its priorities, and this isn't just a story about ambition. It's also a story about doing it yourself, about self-reliance.
So let's talk about India's space agency, ISRO. I mean, look at this list of achievements. It's pretty incredible. We're talking about major wins. Chandrayaan-1 found signs of water on the moon. Mangalyaan made it to Mars on its very first try, which is insanely difficult. Then Chandrayaan-3 nailed a soft landing on the lunar South Pole. And now Aditya L1 is studying the sun. This isn't just a series of one-offs. It shows a very deliberate, long-term strategy to be a major player in space.
Now, Pakistan's space agency, Suparko, went in a different direction. The focus here wasn't so much on, deep space exploration. It was more on the practical side of things. Satellites for communications, for Earth observation. And to get these projects off the ground, they've often collaborated with international partners, particularly China, for help with the launches.
And really, this chart boils it all down to one key word: autonomy. See, by developing its own rockets, ISRO can launch what it wants, when it wants. It's in the driver's seat. Suparko, on the other hand, has focused its resources on building the satellites, but relies on partners to actually get them into orbit. So you see, it's just two very different strategies, leading to two very different places.
Let's shift gears to section 4, security and strategic doctrines. Now, obviously, this is a pretty complex and sensitive topic, so our goal here is just to lay out the facts, to explain the stated policies of both countries as described in the source material we're looking at.
So after both nations became nuclear powers back in 1998, they each adopted a very different posture. India went with a no-first-use policy. That means its arsenal is purely for retaliation, a credible minimum deterrent. Pakistan's stated policy is full-spectrum deterrence. From their perspective, this is a core security strategy designed to counter a whole range of potential threats.
And beyond these high-level doctrines, there's a challenge that both nations grapple with on the ground: terrorism. Now, the context is different. For India, a major focus is on cross-border threats and some internal insurgencies. For Pakistan, the challenge often comes from domestic groups like the TTP. But the key thing to understand is that both countries have had to pour enormous resources into counter-terrorism. It's a huge part of their security focus.
And that brings us to our final section, a tale of two trajectories. We've looked at politics, we've looked at science, we've looked at security. So, what does it all add up to? Let's pull back and look at the big picture.
This quote from our source material really sums it up nicely. It says, "India scaled institutions and S&T at a larger pace and scope. Pakistan achieved notable milestones amid more frequent political and economic constraints." So, what does that really mean? In simple terms, India's stable political system gave it a strong foundation to build on, letting it grow faster and bigger. For Pakistan, the recurring political instability was like trying to run into a strong headwind, making progress that much harder.
So here it is, the whole story in one simple chart. The tale of two trajectories at a glance. On democracy, you have continuous electoral democracy versus a cycle of civilian and military rule. The Army's role? Apolitical in one, a major political player in the other. The space program? Indigenous and interplanetary versus partner-launched and application-focused. These contrasts right here, they pretty much define the story of the last 75+ years.
And so, we're not going to end with a neat little answer. Instead, we'll leave you with a question about the future. You know, for all their differences and for all their conflicts, both nations face massive, shared challenges. Think climate change, public health, things that don't care about borders. So it really makes you wonder, in the next chapter of this story, where might cooperation finally find a way to win out over conflict?